Staffy's here with us now. Another disappointing day for United today. Poor play overall. I suppose some shining lights. You know, Rasmus Højlund had a really good game as an example. What was your thoughts on United today, Steph? You're on mute, my brother.
I just watched United get dominated by Spurs at home, and then I watched Egypt bottle their AFCON opener to Mozambique. I think I'm watching the wrong sport. I ended my stream early. I was about to watch El Clasico. I'm ending it. I'm going on a 2-hour break. I'm not going to watch any more football. I need to find a new sport because what's happening to me right now, watching these dead teams, it's not good anymore. Sir Jim, please, you're sitting up there. I don't expect Sir Jim to be sitting in the stands and watching this game and analyzing it like he's a pundit or he's some analytical guy in this game. You just watched your team play like shit at home. The fans were frustrated. You didn't win the game. Make the wise decision and start with a fresh manager. I don't want to watch this guy anymore. This football that we watched today was haram at all levels. This is haram football, okay? This man, listen, no. I'm going to try to summarize everything real quick within the next 2 minutes because I don't want to dwell on it for too long. The man went against a depleted Spurs team with less quality than us, on paper at least, but he had a game plan. And Ange today proved that when you have a game plan, even if you don't have the right personnel for it for now, you can still get something. And that's what he did today. He dominated the ball. We had this manager. This is how much the Ten Hag is a pussy. He put his right back and left back because he was hoping that let me just shut down Brennan Johnson, not Messi, not Ronaldo, not Neymar, not any of these stuff, not Mbappe. The man put Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the left to shut down Brennan Johnson. To do that, everyone was like, oh, he kept Brennan Johnson quiet. What happened every time we got the ball? You had nothing going down that left-hand side unless it was a counterattack being played from Bruno to Rashford because you have nothing on the left-hand side. You have a right back who can't even play right back, get shifted to left back. That one time where he had to control the ball and it bounced off him twice and it went to throw in, that just summed up everything about this player. But I still have fans until this day that rate Aaron Wan-Bissaka and say, "Oh my God, he really improved under Ten Hag." No, he didn't. Anyways, couldn't keep the ball all game. Everyone in their right sense, at least me and the people I spoke with, were like, "What do we change at halftime? Bring on Casemiro at least." Why? Because you know what? Eriksen is dead. We know Eriksen against teams that keep possession and they press, he's not good. If we couldn't build from the back playing with Eriksen, there's no point of keeping him. Just go and shut down in the second half and try to play counterattack for the rest of the game because they had a better game plan than you. What happens in the first minute of the second half? Eriksen once again loses his runner, cut back. We can see I've seen this goal. I need to go back. I need someone to make a compilation for me and tell me how many cutbacks we've conceded this season. Because I go to bed nowadays and I just have a nightmare of these cutbacks on repeat for the 8 hours that I'm sleeping. It's the same fucking cutback. If an average person like me can sit here behind the screen and say, we need to take him out because he's not doing anything defensively, and we concede in the first minute in the second half by him not tracking back Bentancur. So if I can see it, why can't the manager see it? And I had people saying, oh, well, if we get some players back from injuries, we're going to look better. Well, Werner just made his debut. Brennan Johnson, not the best option in right wing. Richarlison gets bentered by everyone. Harry Winks and what's his name in the midfield? Bentancur, I rate Bentancur. What's the other one? Højbjerg. Sorry. Bro, they're the same person to me. They're the same thing to me. They're both NPCs, bro. We went against a front line like this and a midfield like this, and they dominate us on and off the ball, bro. It just shows you that at the end of the day, it's coaching. And people still sit here and they try to tell me, no, it's personnel. You need the personnel to win leagues. You need the personnel to push forward and become an elite team. But the basics of a team is the coaching. The basics of a team is having a plan on the pitch. When I am getting outdone by a B-Tech version of Spurs, they didn't have Addison, they didn't have Son, they didn't have Bissouma, they didn't have Papameta Sarr. And these guys come on today and they do this today. And people still want to make excuses for this manager. This manager's out of his depth. And as I said, he is a pussy because he approached the game trying to shut up shop and he still conceded 2 goals from Richarlison and Bentancur and conceded. I am so happy we didn't lose this game because the last straw with this manager was losing the halftime record. We are at Old Trafford. We have never lost a game after leading in the first half. And this manager came this close to costing us that record as well. That's one of the records that still stands solid in Europe, and he almost cost us that. There's no future with this team, in my opinion. Doesn't matter who comes off the bench and who's injured and all that. It's nice to see Lissandro come on, play a few balls here and there with Kobe Mainoo. Yes, it was easy to see on the eye for a little bit, but at the end of the day, this team has no executed plan. And once again, Ange proved it. Ange proved it in his first season. He cost us 5 points. We only got 1 point off Spurs. In 2024, we're sitting here, we're talking about Spurs only giving us 1 point. And people want to still sit here and make excuses for this manager. To me, I think it's time for a new clean slate. Ineos, once you're confirmed, please do the right thing. Win the fans back on your side by getting rid of this manager. Because it's too toxic right now. The football's too toxic and the atmosphere is too toxic for us to watch anymore.
You know what's crazy? This whole he needs his players argument. I'm thinking about it. I'm just like, fine, he needs his players. So what the hell did we spend money on the last 3 transfer windows? Like, if we spent money on players that aren't his players, what the hell are we doing?
KJ, but that's my whole argument in the last few weeks. He's bought these players and had a say in them, and he's bought players, in my opinion, because he's used a lot of them before, or they've been part of Ajax, or they've played in that style of football. But then he's told us he isn't coaching them to play that style of football. It is absolutely, again, like I say, if you run a kitchen and you and your team, you do all the meat, you cook the chicken, you do the steak, you do the lamb, you do the pork, you do all of that. And then you get a new job and you hire the same team that are specialists in meat, but your new job at a new restaurant is to do dessert and pastry, and none of these guys are specialists in that. They're going to do a bad job. This is what's crazy about it for me. This is honestly the crazy element, is that we're not trying to play the brand of football that these players.
Well, that's what I'm saying is a liar, Terry.
No, listen, and I agree with you on that. I agree, and I look at it, and Ange Postecoglou is like proof in the pudding, and Spurs are nowhere near the end result yet, but they've demonstrated in 6 months how much better the football could be without having Frankie de Jong in the middle to make it work when they're doing it with goddamn Højbjerg. It is embarrassing. And I agree with everything you said, Staffy. They need to move this guy on. Man United fans need to wake up and smell the coffee. And I know you're not a Bruno fan, as an example. I know some people don't like Sancho. I know some people love the idea of Mainoo coming through. I know some love the idea of Garnacho. Some hate Garnacho. I know some hate McTominay. I genuinely believe if we were I actually don't. I'm getting to a point where I don't almost blame the players for their behavior anymore, because I'm at a stage where I look at it and think, of course they're angry, of course they're frustrated. They've got teammates from international levels or friends that are at Liverpool, that are at City, that are at Tottenham, that are all these clubs, Arsenal. They're all friends with Jude Bellingham over there at Real Madrid, and they see how they're playing football, how they're coached, how they as individuals are being developed, and these guys, after another £400 million being spent, are told to sit in a weird shape and we're going to knock the ball long. That's why I'm at a point where I'm finding it hard to continue blaming players, no matter how good they are when we sign them or how talented they are when we promote them. They all go down the same road. And don't be surprised if in a year's time, if nothing changes, Kobe was never good enough as an example. We'll turn on him. We'll turn on everybody. Everybody goes backwards. So I agree with you 100%. This manager, Sir Jim and co have got to get rid of him ASAP.
Just to prove that he's a liar. Sorry, just to prove that he's a liar again. He came out a couple weeks ago and he said that the goal is to have a team that is able to build from the back. Today, he just proved to me that once again, I've had enough proof that he's a liar. But the people that still think that he needs enough players in this, today he put Wan-Bissaka on the left back position. Now I know a lot of people with small minds, they're going to look at him and they're going to see what he individually did with Brennan Johnson. And they'll be like, well, the plan worked because he kept them quiet. I get that, but ignore that for a second. When you put a left back who's right-footed, like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who is not good on the ball, everyone here will tell you that, and you sacrifice the low, what has the low given us in the past few games? Even people who don't like the low, they've noticed, hey, is maybe the low a left back? Because the amount of times in the last few games when he inverted in that midfield, remember the clip I sent you, Terry? And I was like, oh, that's technically what he was meant to do against Newcastle, but obviously we got dominated that game. The way he played in left back in the last few games just showed, okay, there's something there. The build-up when you're having an inverted left back in the low, and then you have Bissaka doing his thing on the right, worked for us for a few games. And I'm not saying this is not sustainable, but it worked. Today, once again, this is what I'm saying. He's a coward. He sacrificed that in order to try to shut down a winger in Brennan Johnson, which, no disrespect, he is not a high-rated player in the Premier League. So for you to give up your principles once again in order to achieve a side goal, which is shutting down a player, instead of imposing your plan, which is building from the back and having Delo, who's been good in that position, invert into that midfield, give us the extra numbers in the midfield, control the ball a little bit more. For him to do that, again, this is to me proof that he's a liar and he's a coward, because you should have never said that 2 weeks ago if you're going to do that. To me, I've seen enough to know that. I've been saying it for a while that he's not the man. But if this is not new evidence for people who still are sitting on the fence and they need something to convince them, I really can't save you if you can't see this. Because this is
like for me, on a Man United aspect of it, I agree with Staffy. I'd be lying if I said I watched a lot of Man United, because I've only been watching the people I think are like that we have to compete with for the top of the table. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm just saying that that's just.
Come on.
But what I noticed is for me, I don't know if it's if the players being changed is necessarily going to change anything either, because the way you guys played today, you played in patches. Like the intensity dropped, and intensity comes from two things. It comes from a positive mindset, a desire to go out and win the game, or it's kind of a coached aspect. So you guys losing that intensity. There was times where you just didn't even press. You just let us bring the ball into your half. You could have pressed. You guys literally backed up off of us. And I just didn't understand why, because there was like, you guys played in patches. There was like a 5-minute patch here, or a 10-minute patch there, or a 3-minute patch there, where the intensity was really high, and then it just faded. And that comes from me from a mentality of, we don't believe in what we're doing. So
I think it's the coach. I think it's the coach as well, because literally from the start, that's what Ange Postecoglou's always said. He said, listen, whoever it is, no matter what players fit, there's a system that we're going to play, no matter who it is, no matter what it is. Even when we went down, when we had players sent off, he wasn't changing it.
No,
so the players have to come up to that.
But he has made changes. He has made changes. Your manager, when you got Basuma was sent off, he didn't stick everybody on the halfway line. He made subtle changes to make it work. That's fine. But it's Will, you're so spot on. The players don't believe in him. They don't believe in what they're doing. Now, what you then always get is, but how can you endorse player power? I'm not suggesting not working hard is acceptable, but you have to look at why. And this is the problem. Critical thinking is missing in 2024. Why they're not working hard. We understand the culture at the club has got to be fixed. We understand that player power has got to be eradicated. But these players don't want to play this brand of football. You can see it on their faces. And the irony is, the fans don't like it, but they don't like the fact that the players don't. Of course, they know it isn't going to work. They understand it isn't going to work. I must have seen Eriksen today scream 5 or 6 times that these players play the ball through midfield, stop every time going for the Hollywood ball up top. But that ain't players making that decision. It's the manager telling them to do it. And that's why there's the team are at such loggerheads with each other, because there's players in there that are fighting against their own understanding of the game to follow through with what this manager is telling them to do. And it's why there's a comment here that says, Terry, we all hate McTominay because he's crap, so stop comparing him to others. I'm not suggesting that if Scott McTominay in the last 10 years had been developed via Klopp or Pep Guardiola, I'm not saying he'd be KDB, but he wouldn't be a player that everybody laughs at. Every single player at Man United, if Paul Pogba regressed because of this club, if Sancho regressed because of the club and the coaching, what do you think it does to less talented players? Every single player, whether you like them or not, has been impacted by the same thing at this club, the mismanagement. And we know this is true because Sheffield United, in fact, go and watch the highlights online of what Leyton Orient did to Portsmouth yesterday. Leyton Orient mid-tables, he went and beat top of the table League One. Go and watch the football they play. In fact, KJ, you watched the Leyton Orient game in here with my brother. Leyton Orient in League One move and pass the ball better than Man United. Mm-hmm. They just do. Again, as embarrassing as they do, and this is why I understand McTominay ain't great, but he could be coached into playing better football than he does. So imagine what we could have done with Sancho, with Pogba. That to me, Bruno couldn't be better than we're seeing if he wasn't coached right. It's crazy to me.
I just don't think people understand how management can affect people's mentality. I'm a product designer in my current job, and the last one as well. And I worked in a startup. And when you first go there, you're excited, right? You want to develop the best product that you can for the company that you're working for. But then if you have a manager or a boss who doesn't buy inventory on time or doesn't do marketing enough, and things start to dwindle, And it's like, why am I working? Why am I coming in trying to design the best thing possible when no matter what I do, it's going to be a failure? And that's the mentality that I think Manchester United players have right now, right? Because if you look at the Tottenham side, and that's the opposite. We had probably, like you said, 50% of our team that was garbage. So most Spurs fans want to see leave the club, but they have an energy about them because of the manager that is getting a little bit more out of them than they're probably capable of, right, on a normal basis. And that's the difference right now. That's really the only difference.
I gotta go, guys. But listen, I also want to give take a second to give props to Spurs, because I've been accused of talking for Spurs all season, and clearly now people are seeing they're actually a real deal, because they're playing B-Tech players today instead of Madison and Bissouma and them, and they still had a plan. Respect Ange. Everyone who wants to sit here and hate on Spurs, they have something cooking. They have something going on. If this manager gets backed and he gets proper players, we'll have a serious convo about them next season. But as of now, if you're a Spurs fan, I know you guys argue about league title and not league title. I'm not interested in that. As of right now, you guys should be proud because of the rebuild that you guys are going on with right now. You have a serious manager that understands football, that understands how to get the best out of his players, unlike other managers, aka mine. So whatever you guys want to disagree on, that's fine. But you need to agree on one thing, that Ange needs to be backed coming into next summer. Because if he's doing this in his first year, in less than one season, and he's turning water into wine, imagine if he actually gets back and start getting quality players that can do what Werner couldn't do today. Richarlison scored, but a real striker like you had with the when Son was here, like when Bissouma was available. Once you guys have a real team, I think you guys are gonna have something good cooking on. I don't know if Spurs are gonna do it because they don't have a history of backing managers properly. But you guys got something going on. You guys deserve to back in. Respect to you. Anyone else, you guys can hold up because you're a bunch of haters. But Terry, listen, big up for
Staffy, my bro. I appreciate that, mate.
We're
gonna go to some super chats in a minute.